with complete modesty and with great sense of inspiration, I dedicate to the memory of Sri TAPMI. My family would extremely be happy to know that I'm here today talking at a place which was founded, which was nourished, the entire city, the entire place, by that person who has been an inspiration to our family. So without making much ado about it, but certainly full-heartedly dedicating this interaction to him and his memories. And he is a politician I think all of you all will have to look up to and see what kind of people were in Indian politics, what kind of sacrifices they made at critical times. And they didn't compromise on their value systems to be in politics, so there is a lot of hope. And therefore this topic, does India need good politicians or good political parties? It's not as if we've not had good politicians. We've had excellent politicians. We've had excellent committed politicians who did not go to graduate in politics to come there. The sheer dedication with which they thought nation building has to be taken up, particularly in the kind of environment in which this country was given its freedom. So there is across the board, and I'm not talking from Jansangh BJP platform, although of course I'm very proud of the inspirational leadership this Jansangh BJP combination has had. Across political lines, they have been wonderful people, people who were full of substance, people who also had the egos, but gave up the egos in the cause of the nation. And it is not just something which was a fallout of the freedom movement. Much before the freedom movement gained momentum, we've had brilliant Indians. That was not an internet age. But the way in which Gokhale wrote about India, the way in which Gokhale wrote about, or Tilak wrote about India, or the way in which those people spoke about the exploitation that was happening in India, when they're talking about the people of India, were they not talking politics? And therefore, we've never had a dearth of good politicians. We'll always need good politicians, but somewhere this has a tinge of a cynicism which I would want to avoid. It's not to blame anybody who's chosen the topic, but India or any country needs good politicians. India or any country needs good political parties, and they're not mutually exclusive. It's not as if you had good politicians, you may not have good political parties. Good politicians are the ones who give life to a political party and therefore naturally would flow into. It's an organic matter. You have good political people who go into nation building, and as a result of which political parties also become very energetic, take up the cause of nation building. And this, irrespective of ideology, I would say, political parties in India were steadily building up. There could be ups and downs in each one of the parties' trajectory of growth. But I think it is important to recognize we need good politicians, no doubt. We just definitely do need good politicians. And you may then ask me what is to be good in politics. The fact remains, goodness is a common relative term. All of us understand it. All of us understand to what extent it can extend itself to every domain of our lives. A good student, a good teacher, a good lawyer, a good practitioner of medicine. In fact, much before coming here, we were interacting with your faculty. With a sense of grudge, I did say, why is this that we are asking this question only to politicians? Would we ever ask, do we have good scientists in this country? And do we need them? You presume you need good scientists, and scientists are good, and therefore that will continue. But why are we standing, pausing, and introspecting that do we need good politicians, as though we are completely without them? I think the domain of politics itself is such, because that's nearest to asserting power, nearest to executing certain things which affect our daily lives, we give a lot more importance to politics. Sometimes it's good, but many a times I would think you should also ignore politicians and politics just so that they'll have some time to respond and work. And therefore, my feeling is we give slightly more than due importance to politics without understanding that every time you talk about politics or politicians, you're talking about yourselves. Because they're not growing in isolation. They're not as though they have come from the moon or the Mars or the Pluto and they've imposed themselves on you. You're the ones who bring it. You, me, every one of us bring them, nurture them. Say, we see a vision in him. We see a vision in his thought. We see that he's got firmness or she is very good. These attributes we give to our politicians and make them grow in that domain, support them, give them votes, and therefore make them occupy the positions that they occupy. But because repeatedly all over the world, our expectations are probably not fulfilled to the extent to which it should get fulfilled, the description of a politician has always been critical and also cynical. I'm afraid to start opening up some of the quotations which are very useful, because I have your professor here who's strongly rooted in Indian culture and tradition. My examples and quotations are all from the West. There are one or two which of course I can always talk about, references given in the Mahabharata and places like that. But somebody who was very provocative of Indian politicians, somebody who was very critical of Indian politicians, somebody who actually did not think India will last as a free republic for very long, and somebody who we as Indians probably love hating, Winston Churchill. He said, while describing who a politician is, he said, I'm paraphrasing, don't take me for my quote, I'm paraphrasing. He said, a politician should be somebody who can foretell what will happen tomorrow, what will happen next week, what will happen next month, and what will happen next year. And very much afterwards, be also able to say why it didn't happen. And therefore, the entire picture of a politician as somebody who can just get away with saying something and get away again by denying or by re-explaining it is the picture of a stereotype politician. Similarly, again Winston Churchill, while describing a candidate who was supposed to contest as a member of parliament, said they want him to stand. They want him to stand, meaning stand for an election. He wants to sit, meaning he wants to occupy the position and become a minister or sit as a member of the parliament. And he is expected to say lies. They want him to stand, he wants to sit, and they expect him to say lies. At every stage, it's a mockery of a politician. People want him to stand for election, but he wants to become a minister already. And even worse, he's expected to say lies. Not true. Not at all true of many people, but probably true of some. And therefore the image is, this is how a politician is. And actually speaking, the reality easily fits with many of the politicians, and therefore we think, maybe everybody is like that. You'll really not probably, I wasn't very clear when I read this. Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, we quote him on this quotation very often. We quote him because that quotation is applicable anywhere. But I didn't realize till very recently that he had specifically said this of politicians. And that is the famous one which all of us know. You can fool some people sometime, some other people, you can fool some others some other time, or sometime you can fool others, but you can't fool everybody all through. Was Lincoln talking in the context of politicians? So the point that I'm trying to labor and convey to you all is, you repeatedly have very eminent people commenting on politicians with such cynical sense of, this is what they are. They're condemned to be this. They can't be good. That kind of an image gets built up about politicians, and as a result, it tends to reinforce the stereotype. And that's where sometimes it's very hurting that the wit with which you can react is also something which is very creditworthy. Similarly, again taking Churchill's example, he goes campaigning and he says, young man, would you please vote for me? And he says, why? Vote for you? Never. I'll rather vote for the devil. Churchill on the face being told that I'll rather be voting for the devil. Churchill being Churchill, and I'm sure many Indian politicians also would have given the similar kind of answer, which Churchill gave. What did he say? He says, just in case, young man, your dear friend decides not to run, then I count on your vote. I would have thought, say this in India, you would have been finished. You would have been finished as how arrogant an Indian politician. So, in a way, you're reaching a stage in India where wit, humor, sense of balancing, give and take, give as good as you want to take, are all getting out of public discourse. You're ending up wanting to be politically correct always. You're ending up always to be, don't rub anyone on the wrong side, even on the wit and humor side. So as a result, good politicians who probably can bring in that sense of, being light, being correct, being also punchy, and making the opponent think, are also remaining docile. They do not want to unnecessarily get into a muddle. So the flavor with which politics will have to be played, the flavor and intensity with which you have to discuss national interest issues, are all getting diluted in our attempt to be correct, in our attempt to be safe, which is probably the order of the day. I would do it myself. I wouldn't probably go to any extreme, because it's important not to unnecessarily be misunderstood. So most often in India, today we've reached a stage where this question becomes very relevant. We probably see only those who are not so good coming up and blatantly saying things, and the others are remaining quiet. So I agree with this question. We need lots more of them. I'm trying to very quickly finish my monologue and open it up as was suggested by your director, so that instead of me looking at this topic from my perspective alone, by your questions in case there's anything more, I can always gladly participate. So should I leave it there and leave it for you all to question me in case you're interested in listening to me more? Or
Hi ma'am, my name is Krishna. I am a PGP 1 student. And before I ask a question, I just want to state on record that I am a big fan of yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
In the cacophony that is the television interview in news studio in India, you are one of the sane voices. I just want to ask you, ma'am, don't you think we are stopping short with this question? That does India need good politicians or good political parties? Shouldn't it also extend to, do we need a good political system? We have always had good politicians. We have also had good political parties. But don't you think there's something somewhere wrong in the system itself?
The system is also good. I don't think there's a fault with the system. If you're really trying to point at some place or put your finger on some place to say, we have to find a place to put the fault somewhere, the fault lies in all the three: political parties, politicians, and also the political system, because somewhere we have not been accounting for our own delivery of goods for the people. Somewhere we've delayed in making legislation, somewhere we've delayed in taking due action, somewhere we have over the years delayed decisions which have to be taken in time. As a result, I think we've reached a stage where people think nothing is being done in terms of making their lives better. So system is not to be faulted. Individual politicians or individual political parties may not be at fault, but I think all of us today, and it is not just today, periodically we rise. You could have freedom movement, then you could have the emergency, then you could have different movements which are either for protection of environment, protection of the coastal areas. So you have movements happening which are really bringing to fore such critical issues where all the three have probably not delivered on time. But end of the day, today we have come to another set of movement where citizens are saying what's happening to our lives. Our livelihoods are no different. Our standard of living is no different. We are contributing to this country, but the country is not seen as, as a true emerging power. What is going on? This deep anguish, and I wouldn't want to use the word frustration, is coming out, and people are out on the streets to say we need better politicians, better political parties, better system, because we perceive that all the three have failed us. But they originally, as intended by the constitution makers, no, they were meant to, do a lot of things. We can list whole lot of things which we have not done. Whole lot of things. And just to keep the debate a bit more, vibrant, I would say we have not really brought in police reforms for a very long time. During the Lokpal debate, one of the main issues was, why are we not reforming our police? Why are we not having greater presence of police? People would come up with statistics saying, for this number of lakhs of population, we need this many police to be present. Whatever it is. We have not reformed our judiciary. These are kind of allegations which are continuously coming. Why does it come? It's not as if we didn't want to do anything. How many reforms-based commissions, particularly take the example of police reforms. 4, 5, 6 commissions have gone through how to reform it. So is there a lack of intention? No, intention has been there. What did we do with the reports? One government of the other kept moving. Police reforms didn't happen. Judicial reforms didn't happen. But that's not to say judiciary will have to be reformed. Go to your local courts. Not just the complainant, not just the person who's fighting his case, even the judges do not have toilets. I mean, are we a country who can't even afford to build in your court complex decent toilets? You will have mother and children coming to the courts. Do they have a clean place? I'm not even asking a comfortable place. Clean place to sit in a court complex? They're seated under the trees. Rain, sun, shine, whatever. So when you're talking of reforms, it starts from smaller things to bigger things to complex things. But if that has not happened, you're ending up with a situation where every sector is crying for help, saying, please provide me this, I can serve you better. But we're not doing it. We're moving from one, election to another. So it's not exclusively the system. It's not the politician, it's not just the political parties, but all of us have collectively failed. Today, with the momentum with which we are asking questions, I wish we ask it every year. I'm not saying every year we should be on the streets, but I think the consciousness with which we deal with our political system, politicians, political parties, will have to be kept at high antenna.
So I'm Prateek Majumdar from PGP1. Firstly, ma'am, I want to thank you for providing such a fresh and different perspective on the topic. Thank you so much. Ma'am, got 2 questions. The first question is that what I could gather from the discussion is that the individual units, these politicians, when they are good, they come together and make a good political party. But ma'am, don't you think the reverse also applies? Like when these political parties choose people who have got non-bailable offense against them and give them tickets for elections, don't you think this is where people who are not supposed to be members of parliament, they enter? Question number 1. Question number 2 is that when India faces crisis, like we recently saw the Hyderabad blast, ma'am, when will the top 3 political parties of India come together and say that, okay, this is the time where we join hands, we give only constructive criticism, and get everybody on board for the greater good? When will we find that in India? These are the 2 questions. Thank you.
See, on your first question, political parties don't operate in a vacuum. They, after all, operate in a society in which every kind of citizen lives. I won't want to presume that if there is a non-bailable warrant against somebody, he's 100% a criminal. Maybe not. I'll give you quite a few examples why I'm saying this. This is not in support of people who are, wrong. But I'm taking an example, a risky example, but that's not to say that I believe in that, but many such things do happen. Quite a lot of misuse happens in some, acts. People, when they want to settle political scores, invoke the act and say, here we go, this person is offended on this particular, and therefore non-bailable warrant is issued, then he is arrested, then the person goes and, gives a safai. But if you tell me, therefore, that that person should not be given a ticket, in grammar book terms, yes, it's fine, I shouldn't be giving tickets. But technically, till he is proven guilty, is it right on me to conclude that he is definitely wrong? You know, if that individual feels, oh, there's an allegation, till such a time I am proved innocent, I will not come, I won't contest, that will be the ideal situation. But for me or somebody to impose on him saying there is a warrant issued, you've been arrested, sorry, you immediately resign as an MP or an MLA, or if there is an election tomorrow, I will not give you ticket, maybe that we will fall into the trap of people who are misusing it. So this is I'm just putting forth the two sides which prevail in this kind of a issue, where you really can't come at a conclusive, decision, because it's neither so black nor so white. That's one thing on that. But as regards terrorism and as regards issues, I still think there is no much of a difference between political parties on the matter of terrorism, on the matter of national security. All of us want to see this country better safe, and better, safer and better place to live in. But the way in which things develop, there is a statement issued, and you think at this time you do not want to undermine national security, and therefore you remain quiet. Although knowing that there is a gap, let us say somebody who's in power has given a statement saying, oh, we couldn't deal with it because of X reason. And we in the opposition think, oh, in the national interest, it's better that we remain quiet and we don't respond to it, because we shouldn't be seen as taking or scoring a point now. People themselves would say, how stupid of BJP not to put these people up the stake when they failed the country. I'm answerable to them too. At the same time, if I